All right, here we go. Welcome to our Wednesday. One person's on. Hi, Michelle. it's Chuck and Lisa. You're the first ones on. Congratulations. Hope that everything's going well up there in Oregon. And it's a beautiful day again in Southern California. Wednesdays are always kind of a long day. It's a very long meeting day, so these meditations are a nice respite from a full meeting day. Now it's a lot of time on Zoom, but it's always good to get a little on it. May just be the three of us today, but that's okay. Jerry's probably there's another person on. Jerry's probably on also at some point. It's very interesting. I don't know if you noticed this at all. Yesterday we talked about the idea that someone can change and that they might be different now than they were before. Hello, Valerie. See, it's just Washington. It's Washington and Oregon and Oklahoma. If Kathy's there. Well, there's Sis. Now there's Nevada. There literally is nobody in California that's watching this. I digress. So yesterday we talked about how people change over time, and that you can notice that a person is maybe different now than they were. And I had just heard, I didn't hear this over the weekend, that Chris Cuomo was fired by CNN. And what they talk, there's my wife. You see, there's one person in California at least. But that Chris Cuomo was fired by CNN because of, there's two reasons that were given. One is that he was helping his brother in a way where he was deceiving those at CNN in terms of how much he was actually helping his brother. But then there was something else that said he was accused of sexually inappropriate behavior while he was working at ABC I think it was maybe 8 to 10 years ago. And that's when those kinds of things are just really interesting to me, is if he did something 12 years ago, and has it been kind of continued since then? Is this something that happened then? Is he a different person now? Can he even claim to be a different person now? There's a lot of kind of interesting questions about behavior that happens with people many, many years ago and who they are at this moment in their life. Anyway, I'm digressing from what I really would like to talk about today. Hi, Kathy. What I'd like to talk about is the moment after Joseph tells his brothers that it's him. He says something that's really fascinating. It's an idea that we have talked about here at various times during different Torah portions. He says, I want to quote it. This is 45:7 in Genesis. It says, God has sent me ahead of you. Wait, I can't see anymore. He says, God has sent me ahead of you to ensure your survival on earth. Actually, going back to verse 5, now don't be distressed or yell at yourselves because you sold me here. It was to save life that God sent me ahead of you. God has sent me ahead of you to ensure your survival on earth and to save lives in an extraordinary deliverance. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. And God has made me a father to Pharaoh, lord of all the household, and ruler over the whole land of Egypt. So he's basically telling them that they're not the ones that sold him into slavery. God did. That whatever happened to him was intended by God to happen so that lives would be saved. And so, again, we're given this understanding. And by the way, in this Joseph novella, that concept of God making things happen because God knows what's going to happen in the future is prevalent. So I was thinking about it through a mindfulness lens to see how it could help us. How it could help us as we navigate our lives. Because there can be either a tendency, the thought can come into us, or we could completely reject this idea that Joseph was sent before the brothers so that he could save that whole region. For after all, he's the one who was able to interpret the dream, who told Pharaoh that he had to have 7 years, there was going to be 7 years of plenty, then 7 years of famine. If all of that didn't happen, would everyone have just perished in that region because of the 7 years of drought? So how do we turn that on its mindful head? I think the way we can think of it is, same goes for what Jacob did to Esau, what Joseph's brothers did to him. And then you could think about certain things that have happened to you that have led you on a path that has brought you to this very moment in your life, where you live, who you live with, how long you've been there, what you do for a living, what kind of life you've led. For some of us, that could be a distressing story. For others, it could be a story of blessing and beauty. For most of us, I think, there's a little bit of each, right? Sometimes we might feel like we're Joseph and we're in prison. Other times we may feel like we've been let free and given a tremendous amount of responsibility. But no matter how we think of it, whether we think it was by divine providence or for what human beings did to us, there is one clear truth. This is where we are. That, I believe, is kind of the mindful way to understand what Joseph's talking about. He's saying, okay, God put me in this place to save lives. But another way to approach it is, whatever happened to me in my life, at one point I may have thought it was terrible, but in the end, the place where I am, the place where I exist, was the place I needed to be. I had this talk with my daughter the other day. We were talking about this idea of is something meant to be? And she had this, I thought, great insight, which is, it was meant to be. It might not have been divine providence that got us there, but that was meant to be a part of our story. And in the end, this was our discussion, was how fascinating it is that each of us has a story. And that story has brought us from place to place, from person to person. And that we could put whatever excuse we want on what brought us to where we are, or whatever divine providence we can believe brought us to where we are. But the beauty of the essence of life is that we each have a story, and we need to cherish that story, even the times that were difficult. So we exist in this place, and how we got there is less important than acknowledging and allowing us to exist in this place. This may not be the best moments of our lives. It may be the greatest moments of our lives. It may be that we're kind of neutral. It may be that we're just plodding through. It may be that we're having a really difficult time right now. All of that is the truth of our lives, what we're trying to discover as we do our meditation. But most important, to acknowledge that no matter how we got here, this is where our lives has taken us. If we want to say this is where God wanted us to be, that makes you feel comfortable, then that's a beautiful way to look at it. If we want to just say, my life has brought me here based upon what I've done, based upon what others have done, however we want to say it, right now, where we are, that's where we are. And our idea, as we go quiet in 20 seconds, is to allow everything to be just as it is. That's the essence of what Joseph's saying. have sold me into slavery, but this is where I am, and this was for good. So let's just say I've ended up into this place. This is part of my story. This is a good story. So I embrace it. Okay? So now let's just allow everything to be as it is for now. Accept where we are in our lives. Perhaps think of it as a blessing to be where we are. And let's bring ourselves to a neutral place so that when we come back out in 15, 20 minutes, we can feel rejuvenated to continue on with that story in the best way that we can. Okay. Let's find a comfortable yet strong position. Follow our breath all the way through. Sorry for the little bit of noise that's in the background, the white noise you might hear, but my California take the cold, so I like to have a little bit of heat on. Just concentrate on our breath. Concentrate on the breath filling up our insides, leaving our insides. What are the sensations happening in your body? I'm sure your mind is going to take you away, as will mine. So just without judgment, let's just bring ourselves back to our breath. Sometimes it may help just to count your breaths, and if your mind takes you away from counting, you just start over at 1. Sometimes to find our quiet time more uplifting, there's a technique just to bring up the curves at the side of your mouth so that there's almost like a semi-smile. I call this the Nachman of Braslov smile. But things will follow if you remember that meditation. But we're quiet now. to our last 4 minutes or so together, we ask for 2 questions of the universe, 2 feelings that can help lift us up. May I feel luminous? May I feel loved? This is the middle of our priestly benediction. May I feel light, glowing, shining, luminous. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. I think these 2 feelings can lead certainly to a feeling of well-being, to know you're loved, to know you're light. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved with each breath. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. Say it out loud to yourself. You can whisper it. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous and loved. If you'd like to bring these words to someone else, have them right in front of you, in your mind's eye. You can offer them these 2 feelings. May you feel luminous. May you feel loved. May you feel luminous. May you feel luminous. May you feel loved. Just bring it back to yourself. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. With those feelings inside of us, just take one last moment just to breathe. Feel your breath. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you were able to find some peace and stillness. May you feel luminous, and may you feel loved, and may you have a wonderful evening.